background is the opposite of being an entrepreneur, criminal, drug addict, darkness, left and right failures. I think the highlights of my life were I was a good tennis player for a few years of my life, and then drugs took me in a different direction. Was that?
You're on.
Okay.
On YouTube, this point.
Yeah. We're on YouTube right now, but we're gonna give it. We're gonna give it a fireside chat. Okay, while we get started, we're gonna in 5 minutes we officially start. For you guys on YouTube, we officially start in 5 minutes. We're talking about email marketing today with the great Dave Royce. So Dave, yes, I have a pretty intense background. I'm an accidental marketer. I decided to learn marketing out of a necessity to survive, not out of a necessity to change the world. I needed to feed my family, and we were all starving and broke. And I literally went through the subprime mortgage market, lost my house, lost my job, lost everything, and had to restart. And without a career, marketing degree, without education, without anything that would make me valuable in the world, because the world would not agree that I was valuable because I didn't go through the system. So without any of that stuff going on, I jumped into the world of marketing first because I had a 9-to-5 job, and one of the people in that job, he was what they call a roadsider. He used to sell bed sheets on the roads, and he would put tents and put a table and sell bed sheets for $20 and make $9. These ones were the brand called 𝗟𝗢𝗥𝗘. And as I was diving into the world of marketing, because I think my wife had an entrepreneurial DNA. I didn't. I was hoping that she would help me make a lot of money and make my life easier. She was trying. You know, we got together and we started building Natural Slim. I did not help at all with that for the first few years. Maybe I helped ship a couple packages. But in 2008, we formed Natural Slim between my dad, my wife, and I. She ran it for years on her own. I just was there overseeing that. I don't know, maybe I guess I was more of a babysitter of my kids during those years. Just having my 9-to-5. I used to play a lot of Temple Run and Angry Birds, and that was a lot of fun for me. It's crazy because I did a 360, or 180, let's say. So it just happened, man. Once that thing caught fire, which is what I tell everybody, once it catches fire, man, you can't turn it off. Like right now, I can't turn it off. It's over. It's over. This is until the day I drop this body. I'm going to be looking for ways to capture attention and build businesses. I'm obsessed by it. I think about it day in, day out, Monday through Sunday. In vacations are not really vacations. They're relocation of work. All those things for me, like it's like right now it's like burning inside nonstop, So that's now. That's how I operate right now. But I made enough money right now that I have what you can say passive income because I have the Natural Slim business built, and I have AGM that basically it's its own monster running on its own and growing on its own right now. So I don't have to work as hard. It doesn't matter. I still am very dedicated to my work and very passionate about my work, and I want to keep on doing it because it drives me. It's a game. It's motivating. Now, in 2013, I was starving, I was broke, and I had nothing, and I needed to feed my family, and I felt irresponsible because I was not able to provide. In 2020, I'm playing a game, and I'm enjoying it every step of the game, and it's different because now I have abundance, and it just becomes a different thing along the way, right? That was 2018. I appreciate that, Dave. Okay, good. So we are going live in a few seconds, and everybody's listening to you right now on YouTube, but let me just do a quick intro, and then we'll be sharing the screen ourselves, okay? All right, guys, so we are live on Facebook now and YouTube. I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy day on this Thursday morning for the Social Marketing Hour, episode number 12. We've had a lot of speakers, a lot of great guys show up on the show so far, from 𝗟𝗘𝗥𝗡 to Ben Cummins to, the list is like quite awesome by now. And the way that I operate myself, like with my, if you guys have followed me for a while, you know that I haven't really been one to bring guests into my shows. I've had a podcast for many years now, and that podcast has been a one-man show. It always has been, just basically me throughout a few years. And I have been helping a lot of people, and that podcast gets a lot of downloads. And you guys might be listening to this podcast right now, even though we're on a Facebook and YouTube Live as of this time. But I have a policy, and my guys know this. My team that schedules these interviews that I have right now going on with the Social Marketing Hour, I'm bringing people that are important to me and that I believe in. I only bring people that I believe in strongly. I get people all over the place requesting to be a part of the show. Hey, I got this great podcast guest. If I don't know you, you're not coming into my show. So whenever I bring somebody on board, I'm not saying that these guys are not awesome. There's a lot of people out there awesome that I don't know who they are. I don't know them. I just don't bring them into my show. The way that I operate, instead of looking for guests, instead of looking for people that I don't have any connection with, is that I bring people into the Social Marketing Hour that I have a connection with somehow. If this person has helped me in some way, if this person has accomplished great success with what I teach, and I've been teaching for years now, no matter who they are, they come into the show. I have had incredible students here talk about their stories. A couple of weeks ago, we had 𝗟𝗘𝗥𝗡 from Our Friendly Forest, and he talked about his content, his product creating process, which he hasn't talked about before, and it was so valuable. And you have people like Dr. Berg, who's this unicorn, right, that we have come to learn, know about over the years, which is quite unique. And he talked about his process for creating content, and that was incredible because there was things that he talked about on this interview with me a few weeks ago, I think 2 months ago now, that he hasn't talked about before. For example, you would imagine Dr. Berg is very confident on stage, right? He is now. He makes 14 videos a week, 14 new videos for YouTube every single week. He's a content machine, like nothing I've ever seen before. Well, he hasn't always been like that. Dr. Berg had to do fear of public speaking seminars and trainings. He was shy. He wasn't very comfortable with his own voice and with himself. And that's something that he wanted to let everybody know, because it is a process. And also one thing that was a big takeaway for everybody that Dr. Berg said on this interview was like, hey, don't quit your, we're not live on Facebook? He said, don't quit your 9-to-5 job. Don't quit your 9-to-5 because it takes a while. It's a process, right? It is a process. Let me check this because for some reason Facebook is having some technical difficulties today. It's not going live. Yep, it's not going live on Facebook. It is not. You know, we're just going to go like that, and then we're just going to post the video, all right? Because it's been a couple of technical issues on that, and we're going to have a great conversation, and then people on Facebook can watch it afterwards, all right? So that's the plan for today. So I apologize for those of you guys that are waiting on Facebook, but it is platforms that are generally reliable, but these things can happen. Okay, so that being said, today's guest is somebody that has been helping us for a while, and on a very unique and special skill that I believe right now is extremely important, actually more important than ever. And we're going to talk about that subject because it has to do with email marketing and what you do with your existing list. And that's something that you guys know that I push a lot, which is the process of building a list. But what I don't talk enough about is the process of nurturing a list, and how do you humanize the entire process with these people that are on your central files, your identities. You guys have heard this marketing adage, that has been around for ages, which is money's in the list. I believe in that. I believe in that strongly. If you have a list, you control your own destiny. If you're only dependent on a platform like Amazon, or you're not working on accumulating phone numbers, names, emails, identities, your business will always be a liability. So because of that, you guys have strategies to grow your list. Now, what happens when you grow it? How do you nurture that? That's what we're going to work on. We're going to talk about today with Dave Royce, that he's somebody that helps me personally with my email marketing. And I've known him since 2018, in which we connected because he was helping me with marketing, email marketing for 𝗟𝗘𝗥𝗡 and for myself and other things along the way. So without further ado, let's bring Dave into the screen now, and let's start having a great conversation on the subject. Dave, can you hear me well and see me well?
Hey, I can hear you just well, and I can
Great.
see you, so we should be live now.
Okay, fantastic. We are good to go. All right, Facebook was not being friendly to us today. We're live on
no.
YouTube, and then a lot of people are going to be listening to this on podcast.
Perfect. Let's do this. Let's
Okay,
talk
Dave,
about
so-
this stuff.
So I know you're not like doing content every day, and I'm trying to get you to start doing more content because it's so valuable what you talk about, right? But tell us a little bit about. You were telling me about your story before we got on the call, before we went live. Tell us a little bit about your story and how you started in this world of email marketing, and this world of marketing in general, so people can understand where you came from.
Yeah, so I'm what I would consider a closet entrepreneur, in that I was doing the 9 to 5 for a long time. For first 20 years of your life, you do the 9 to 5 because you get a job and you work through your job and you try to find your pace within your life. What are your skills? What are you good at? I attended college, didn't finish the college. I wanted to go do other things. Started doing motorsports, fell into the technical side, was designing automotive stuff. Then I went ahead and started racing cars, was good at that. Realized how much money it took to race cars, and didn't really have the kind of money that it took to race cars, so I was employed to do some of that stuff. But there was something still missing in all of that, and that was I wasn't helping enough people. Racing cars is a very solo effort. You're really helping yourself, right? You've got a team and you've got all this stuff, but you're really focused on your own personal goals, which is great. But for me, there was something missing. There was missing this thing where I wasn't really helping the community. I wasn't really helping people. I wasn't helping business. And so when I had an opportunity to move out into my own deal and start putting on motorsports events, I really started to thrive and really enjoyed helping people. I was bringing more people in to enjoy their passion, their sport. I was helping volunteers come and join. I was helping people engage in what they were passionate about. And that I really found my pace. And in that process, in order to run a business these days, of course, this was a while back, you had to do online marketing, especially with event-based businesses. You don't really have a choice because you have to go out, reach people, and then get them to physically come to you. That is different than getting someone to open an email. Persuasive email copy to get in a program, to get someone to physically show up at an event, that's a whole different animal as opposed to getting someone to join a webinar, right? That's a little different game. The commitment is huge to get somebody to take an entire weekend out and then just go to a place and enjoy. So you've got to really have your game on. And so what I learned was that the messaging was so important. And because you were talking to people that were passionate about something, you could humanize the conversation. It wasn't structured in, here's the features and benefits every time you ran an email, right? It was having a conversation with a mass of people. And that's when I really started to feel like, wow, I really, really enjoy helping people. And this platform is amazing because we can reach a lot of people that way. And I'm not one like yourself that's always on camera, that really likes to be on camera and do that. So I'm a little bit camera shy. And so I don't necessarily put out the content. But what I do is I help folks like you build the background. I'm the guy in the background, the wizard behind the curtain kind of thing, where it helps people push them to the front so they can shine. That's where I really like helping companies. So from all of that, I sold the motorsports business because it was a pretty narrow thing. I'm like, how can I help just entrepreneurs? Entrepreneurs are an amazing breed. And that's why I said I was a closet entrepreneur. I had a 9 to 5 job, doing my own thing, working every day and actually enjoying it. But then there's always something missing sometimes. And so then I went ahead and doing my own thing here. Are we still on here? Am I freezing up? You want to talk to me?
No, we're good. We're good.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Thing froze up. All right, so then I after the selling that motorsports business, I kept the part that I loved, which was the marketing and the digital marketing and reaching people. And then I was reaching out to folks to actually help them grow their business the way that I had. I took a business that actually had no assets and was able to sell it because of all the marketing and communication we had. We had a thriving customer base and was able to sell that. So that's kind of how I got where I am now. And now
How long ago was that, Dave? How long ago was that?
with that I sold sold that
Yeah, because you're
particular
talking
business.
about online platforms, and
Yeah.
so you know, I think about online platforms really beginning in somewhere around 1999, right? Like for real, 97.
Yeah. So I don't want to go back that far, but way back in the mid 90s, you talk about closet entrepreneur. I was in conversation with Amazon in the mid 90s or late 90s to sell auto parts. And unfortunately, I had no money to meet their criteria. So can you
Wow,
imagine where I'd be today if I was one of the early adopters to sell auto parts on Amazon?
wow.
Would have been crazy. But those are missed opportunities. But you can't look back at those and go, "Wow, I wish I should." But what it does, it makes you look forward and go, "Don't miss the next opportunity."
Right, right.
So
That's
that
true.
so 2005, 2006, 7, and 8 in that area is when I really started to realize the power of the email marketing. And before, all the social platforms were really huge at that point. I mean, they were there, people were using them, but they weren't as um, pervasive as they are today, of course.
Right, which it's there's a lot of changes that have happened over the years, that's for sure. So Dave, let me start off by asking you something, because you know, people talk about you've been on the email world for quite a while already,
Yes.
and obviously this was such an important part, and still it is today. I know that
Huge.
before I was a marketer, before I even cared to be a marketer or do a business, I used to funny side stories that I talked about this on my webinars or seminars before. But I used to dream about maybe one day getting an inheritance of something and making my life easier. So obviously that was not going to happen, especially when I saw my dad being healthier than I was. I said, that's not going to happen, you know. So I better get to work, right? So before I was a businessman myself, which officially began somewhere around time 2009, 2010 for me, email marketing was a big deal. And I hear stories about 99% open rates on emails. Like, so in the year 2000, in the year 2002, now,
Yeah.
right now, you have some horror stories on the world of email. I know a lot of it really has to do with how your subject, which is how do you humanize these campaigns? Because if you just go out there and you just promote and spam people left and right and just send out promotional material, your open rates just plummet, and they go down to, I've seen companies having an open rate as low as 3 to 4%, and then yes, there are the industry averages, which are like 18%, 21%, 20%, etc. But still, it's not the 99% that it used to be. Maybe
Never
when
will
you
be again.
started. Never will be, right? So, what is your thought on that idea? Is it because email marketing is on its way down and on its way out, or is it email marketing is on its way out for those that don't know how to use it? What's your thought on that side of things?
Yeah, so as you probably know, I go back a little bit to talk about the future. So what happened back then when we used to have to dig into the technical side of email marketing to even send a list to people was not easy to do. So only few people were doing it. And it wasn't easy. And then came along, the constant contacts and the MailChimps, which started to democratize this process, just like other platforms, where it made it accessible to so many people to be able to go do this. And so what happened is once a whole lot of people start doing something, then you have a flood of bad information going out there. And so people thought, oh, this is inexpensive. This is easy to do. I'm just going to send all the emails I can. And now, oh, well, I can reach these people. So now I'm going to start spamming people. Even though they didn't even ask for anything, now I'm going to go ahead and keep sending them anyway. It's like, it's just the evolution of these things. And so moving forward, now you had to do something about that because everybody went from 99% open rate because they were getting quality emails in the early days. And then they started getting all the ads and the spam. And so people stopped being confident that they were going to get anything of value. And so then also you had these spam filters that kicked in. And so all of these things started to evolve to where so much chatter is going on now that 80% of what you get probably is useless anyway. So that just takes you down to 20% open rate if you're sending emails out to people that's just spam, right? So you're already taking a big chunk of that. Now, those who are, if you've got an engaged list of people who want to be part of your product, you should be over 50% on engagement. But that means you have to be sending something that they want. And you talk about this stuff, right? You talk about making sure that you're providing value to customers. And in order to provide value, you have to speak to them properly. You can't just constantly try to sell them something, right? That's not the way it works. It's, as you're very pervasive on the social platforms, and you know that the moment you try to hard sell, people stop listening, right?
Right.
And so in email is kind of the same way. Email is more of a conversation than a pitch fest. And so that's where you get into the nurture programs. When somebody raises their hand and says, hey, I'm interested in what you're saying, why don't you send me something? We call them lead magnets and tripwires and all of those digital marketing stuff. But I don't like some of those terms. You know, the tripwire these are technical and tactical terms. And then you've got the funnel, right, that people talk about, the sales funnel, which is a great term, but you know what it does? It leaves out the person, it leaves out the human, it leaves out who you're speaking to. It makes it very mechanical in nature. And then I put oil in the top of my engine and it went down and it dispersed like, that, and it's not very humanizing. So when you start looking at who your audience is, why they're engaged with you, and start speaking to their needs instead of your own, then you realize, I'm actually talking to a human. I'm not talking to a keyboard. I'm not talking to an email list. I'm talking to, maybe it's 10,000 people, maybe it's 50,000 people, maybe it's 100,000 people. But like right now, I'm talking to you, people are listening, and I can speak to each person individually. And that's what email should be doing. It should be an extension of a conversation that you're having somewhere else. And so that customer journey, that humanization, it's super important to reach people and get them to engage on the various platforms today.
It's an extension of what you're building that relationship, which a couple of things of what Dave said. There's something. One of the, I was telling you my story before we officially went live, Dave, right? So
Yep.
One of the, how it was like. I was telling you about that there's a fire that was lighted, and I just cannot turn it down, right? Turn it off right now. It's permanent. Well,
you got it.
There was a person that helped me light that fire. The first book that I ever wrote, that I ever read on the subject of marketing was from Gary Vee, and it was Crush It. And that started opening up my ideas and got my mind going into opportunities and development of platforms and businesses and things like that. There's something that Gary talks about on his content quite a bit. I've been too busy to consume his content recently. That happens. But there's something that he says which proves what Dave just said on the subject of email. And he says the following: marketers ruin everything. Have you heard that before? Yeah, Dave?
Yeah.
So it doesn't happen for email only. It happens for everything. And it rinses and repeats every single time throughout history. For example, television came in when radio was overcrowded and radio was expensive. So marketers ruined that. So they move on to television. Eventually, marketers ruined that too because it was expensive and it was overcrowded and it became impossible to profit on a television campaign. And also people lost attention on that platform. So then we move on to the internet and Google Ads, and then Google Ads became expensive because, again, it's the process repeats itself every single time. Email was one of the most incredible things ever. Actually, if you go back in history, I don't think there's many things that overtake the power of what email presented to us businesses, because it was the ability to send out messages for free to these people as long as you had them on your list. How incredible was that? Instead of having to stamp a 30-cent postcard or do any of that stuff, which is very expensive. $10,000 bulk mail packages, $20,000. Like, I mean, I know because I used to see my dad doing this when I was growing up, and he used to spend a lot of money on these bulk mail campaigns. Email made it affordable. Suddenly, marketing became affordable, right? So it was a big deal.
Right.
So eventually, like Dave is explaining, people got into it, and a lot of companies came in, and then it became spam. I like to use the, I don't know if you've done this research yourself. I love studying the evolution of things. So I wonder, Dave, why the heck did we come up with the name spam? And I researched that. Do you know that story, Dave? Do you know why?
I don't know that story.
Oh my God, it's so funny. If you go to Wikipedia, you'll see the information on that. Like, obviously, spam is a word that's connected with email, right? It's not being used anywhere else. But the fact of the matter is that spam is a word that has been around for 100 years, and it's a canned meat product. All right?
That's right.
Which is synonymous with trash, low quality, poisonous food that you put in your body that you don't wish on your worst enemies. That's spam, right? So the story comes with like a TV show that supposedly was, they were desperate for some food, and they started asking for, like, it was some kind of funny scene that they wanted to get the lowest quality meal on the restaurant, and they started banging the tables. Spam, spam, we want spam, spam, spam. And it became synonymous with unwanted communication, unwanted food, right? So so that email marketing and spam, it's a big word. So it became like, email marketing, there's a lot of spam going on right now. But there's a lot of value in it. That same process, Dave, you know that I'm a big fan of, for example, messenger marketing and ManyChat.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Right?
Huge.
So the same thing is going to happen. That's what I tell people, like, look, the same thing is going to happen. Facebook is trying to slow it down. How are they trying to do so? I don't blame them. But at the beginning of the year, in 2020, they inserted a rule, and they made it mandatory that across every single messenger channel. And they said, you do not have the right to send a message to somebody if they have not engaged with you in the last 24 hours.
Period. Compliant.
Yeah, exactly. So now if they catch you doing that, you're going to get your channel shut down. You're going to lose it. And I also have seen that on platforms like Infusionsoft, Dave, that if you send too much unwanted communication, they will shut you down, correct?
Well, shut you down is a interesting term. We can get into the technicalities of that. But yeah, I mean, there are limits, and because there are laws now, we didn't get into my last conversation there. I didn't get into the laws where it progressed into the government taking over and saying you need permission-based marketing. And I actually very much embrace permission-based marketing. And so that it kind of goes through all of the channels now. You need permission, really, to send. You can't buy a list anymore. These are known lists, and you just can't buy a list and send millions of people an email. I mean, I'm sure there's ways around it, but it's just not something we condone.
Right. So you don't recommend anybody do that anymore, right? Like they used to.
Well, no, because the platforms that you use to send the emails, I mean, how are you going to scrub an email? There's seeded emails in those. There's known lists. There's patterns. There's all these things that are built into these lists because they just get cycled through. And the softwares are sophisticated. And why? Because it affects their business. And anytime you affect someone else's business negatively, they're going to take it seriously. And so platforms like Infusionsoft and other CRM platforms, they have to meet these ratings on their servers in order to keep this delivery going. And so it gets pretty technical in the background, and we can go into a little bit of that after. But it's very important that people have good communications with their customers and prospects. Right.
So one thing that I can tell you that happened to us, we have the company Natural Slim. That company was created by my father 20 years ago already. So somewhere, it was in Puerto Rico, and it was in the year, I think 1999 or so, that he created this company. And it's a weight loss company. Shortly after, he created what he calls a metabolism test. And it was one of the first online things that it was incredible because you were able to go into a link, and he used television ads and everything that he could to promote this particular metabolism test as a lead generation. So in 1999, he launched this, and for a solid 15 years, we were accumulating leads, maybe 17 years. People from television, from newspapers, everybody was being sent to this particular link. They would do their metabolism tests, and they would get a result, and now we had a lead, and then we had the consultants call them to try to get an appointment for them to come to the clinics, and that was a great system for us. I mean, we promoted, and we got probably close to 1 million leads over the years on different countries because this also being positioned early enough in the internet world, people would Google things on the subject of metabolism in Mexico, and they would find this particular metabolism test. So it became a lead gen worldwide for us. So along the years, I think somewhere along the line where you were going to help us, we started creating Infusionsoft accounts for some of these big accounts.
Yes.
And we imported, we actually got an Infusionsoft account with, we gather all these leads from 17 years, all of them. And we put them on Keep, which is Infusionsoft still.
Yeah, converting into Keep, yes.
Converting to Keep, all right? So we got all those leads, and then I had my guys like, look, I said, well, the money's in the list, isn't it? We got 1 million people on a list. So let's start communicating to them. And we started doing that, and our open rates were absolutely terrible. And I'm talking about 4 to 5%. Now, some of these people had given us their email address in 1999, 2002, right? These are at AOL emails, at Yahoo emails that, you know, like some of these guys have never even opened up again.
I know.
Earthlink, etc. So we started emailing them, and the truth of what happened to us, Dave, is that, you know that I said the word shut down. We were kicked out of Infusionsoft. We were kicked out, all right? So I don't know if you've seen that before, but in our case, it became real. We got penalized, and even though we were paying them a huge amount of money because it was a big list, they say, we don't want you on our system. We don't want you, get out. And I said, wait a second, we're just giving value. It didn't matter. We were just emailing a lot of people that maybe had not even heard about us in 10 years, and we were expecting, it's almost like we bought a list. Even though it was our list, our identities, people that we generated along the years, they weren't connected with us anymore. So it's something that could happen if you don't have a list that is really into what your message is, or they're not aware of it. So what are a few best practices that you can give, Dave, in the subject of how do you communicate, when do you communicate, how often do you communicate on email, and how do we go about getting all this set up?
Sure, great question. So let's start with what you're really good at, which is lead generation and engaging people on chat, right? When they engage with you on chat, and then you ask for their name and their email so that you can deliver something of value to them, you're now engaged in the first step of the customer journey, right? You have an interaction with them, and now they're in your game. So now it's a really important time to understand that customer. Why did they connect with you? And then, move them through into a nurture list to keep providing value. And I got to tell you, Manuel, you provide so much value, what we like to call value in advance, before ever asking for a sale. I mean, ultimately, you are in a business, I'm in business, so eventually there should be a sale in there. There should be no expectation that you never ask for a sale. If there is, then, that's a whole different story. The pitch was wrong. But as far as getting the email list, so I'm going to take a little sideways here and tell you what's considered a cold email. Okay, the industry standard is kind of 90 days, believe it or not. If you haven't engaged with your customer and they haven't opened your emails, it's 90 days. If they haven't communicated with you in 90 days, the turnover is so high right now, and it's so fast. You don't have a person on your email list for years. You literally have 90 days before they're probably going to get stuck into the spam box. And
that's great. Let me just make that point right there. That's an important, very practical point. What I did in the story that I just said a couple of minutes ago was terribly wrong. All right, and I had this delusion.
There was no way to know.
Yeah, I really had a delusion that I was going to get somebody that gave me their information 7 years ago to be interested in the program today. And I ended up paying the price for that. And I got penalized by the platform. So 90 days. So whatever your system is that you use, whether you use Constant Contact, MailChimp, ActiveCampaign, Infusionsoft, Klaviyo, whatever that may be, 90 days is a great standard for you guys to keep. Anything above 90 days, I know that Dave and we talked about that. You have to work on re-engaging them outside of email through social media, which is something that you can do now in this environment. You can plug in your list of people that have not been active in the last 90 days with you, and just bring them back into your channel. All right, didn't mean to interrupt. I just want to make sure that we stand out on those important things.
It's exactly right. It's part of what you have to do. You have to consider a retargeting campaign, and we can get into more about that just after this. But when you're talking about email deliverability, you have to play the game. And you talked about being in the game earlier in our conversation today, and if you treat it like it's a game, because it does have rules. I mean, it has legal rules and it has ethical rules, and it has kind of social rules around it. And so if you're just pumping information out there that nobody wants, well, I don't know what your expectation would be, but it would be kind of difficult to expect people to engage. But if somebody comes in and then chooses one particular product of yours, and they say, hey, I'm interested in this product, and then you switch it up and start talking about something completely irrelevant to what they engaged with, they're not likely to open your stuff. So it's super important when I say humanize, and I use it because it's a nice term to use, because everybody wants to be spoken to like a human, right? We don't want to. I want to talk with you. I don't want someone to to talk at me. I just want to have a nice conversation with people, even in email. And so when somebody raises their hand and said, "Hey, I'm interested in coaching level 1," we work with you, and so what we do is we talk about coaching level 1, right? Or we talk about email deliverability, or we talk about that one subject. And then only after we're completely satisfied that we have great value to that one subject do we move on to any other subject. Because if we switch too soon, if we change up the conversation too fast and try to sell, all of a sudden we're like, hey, I thought you were going to engage with me, and all you want to do is sell me stuff. Well, I was interested in your knowledge, and I don't mind paying for it, but let me warm up, because we know one thing, that we have to build this triangle. It's called the know, like, and trust triangle, right? We know we have to close that in order to get a sale. So we have to spend this time nurturing. And we talked about earlier, think about it. There's so many people trying to do email automation today that you have to be better than the rest of your competition. And better means connecting with that customer, connecting with them with what they're interested in, not what you want to sell them. The sale will come if you're good at what you do. It always does to the people. It always comes. Rushing it is bad.
You want to give them solutions to their problems they're trying to handle. You want to give them that value, right?
Here's why I say humanizing, because I always come back to this. When you and I are having a person-to-person conversation, and you come to me, you say, hey, Dave, how you doing? I'm well. And I said, oh, I'm Dave. Hey, I heard you do this stuff. And you're, yeah, I do this. And what are you interested in? And I said, oh, well, I'm having this trouble with my ManyChat. Oh, ManyChat? And then what are you going to talk to me about, right? You're going to talk to me about ManyChat. You're not going to talk to me about YouTube ads or, Facebook. You're going to talk to me about ManyChat, right? That's natural. That is so natural in a conversation. It's really important that you try to bring that to the email conversation, or even any social conversation. Switching that up
listen to this.
Used car.
Yeah, so this is a gold right here. This is an absolute golden nugget. If you think about, there's two words here that are not necessarily supposed to be used together, and we're trying to use them together. And those two words are humanizing and automation. All right?
Yeah, exactly.
How do you humanize something that is automated? It's a challenge, and it's a marketing challenge. What I like to say on my content is that, and this is something that I mean, and I'm always really pushing on this particular point. When you're trying to get customers, when you're trying to give people enough value to bring them into a customer journey, you got to realize that what you're trying to do is earn yourself a right to make them offers. If you do not have enough energy, value that you're giving to them, you have not earned the right to make them offers. That's just the way it is. I know it sounds a little cliche-ish, and everybody says, oh, you got to give value, but you got to understand that your business has a superpower. You have something that you can help people with. I'm here with Dave Royce today because he has a superpower. His ability, when I sit down with him and he talks about email marketing and he talks about creating this funnel and he talks about driving people down a journey, I listen because he has the ability to teach and provide that value. Because of that, I keep on giving him business. When it comes to marketing, people give me a lot of money because I have a superpower to show them exactly how to capture attention so they can generate sales. Whatever your business is, you have an ability. If you have, for example, a beauty brand that you're selling cosmetics, well, you have the ability to show people how to look and feel beautiful. And that's an important ability. So you want to show people a roadmap for accomplishing exactly that. The only way that you can avoid going through that route that Dave and I describe of providing that value and building a conversation and humanizing your marketing and providing that education on a particular subject is if you have a very unique and revolutionary product that nobody else has. If your name is not Elon Musk, if your name is not Steve Jobs, if your name is not any of these guys, and you don't have unique products that are very simply not existent anywhere but still have a demand, then you want to make sure that you stand out. And that's about 99% of us. That's what we have. We have products that have a lot of competition, that have a lot of people that are doing similar things to us, that are out there in the world trying to see how the heck they stand out. And the way that you stand out is by humanizing your marketing. And on email, if you want to make sure that you have something valuable, that people are actually opening up those emails and looking up to getting the next message and seeing what you have to say now, that's part of the process. You have to give that value. And I love what Dave said, that if they came to learn about ManyChat, this is something that I am guilty of myself. Dave knows that. He can probably tell a couple of horror stories of helping me with my email line right now. But the thing is that I have so much content and I'm so passionate about it, Dave, that I want to give people everything. ManyChat. And do you have an Amazon? Let me show you how to rank on Amazon. Shopify? I got that for you too. Oh, you want to do leads? Yeah, we got leads too, right? All that stuff. So we have so much content and so much value and I'm such a believer in all of it that I get desperate and I want to give it to everybody. But if you do that, you lose people along the way because first of all, it's too much for them to take in. And second of all, that's not what they came for. You're not solving the problem that they came to address. And that's what you need to handle. That's why, it's first. Like, would you say, Dave, that this is something that requires that upfront for the automation process, setting up the campaigns, it requires a lot of energy and time to put into that. But once you set it all up, it's just maintaining and keeping it alive and adjusting and editing along the way.
I can tell you, without automation, your worst nightmare is success.
Let's analyze that statement. That's a big one.
Sure.
Without automation, your worst nightmare is success. Sure, absolutely, right?
Yeah.
So here's an example of that. On Natural Slim 2020, we have absolutely exploded. COVID-19 was an absolute blessing for the company, not for the world, destructive for the world. But for the company blew up in a big way. We weren't set up in a lot of ways, particularly shipping. And you see, for example, a lot of companies that have struggled in those areas. So what Dave is saying is that if you see massive success, if you don't have automation in place, it becomes an absolute nightmare that you cannot deliver on whatever your products and services are. Correct, Dave?
Yeah, let me tell you just a little story on what happens when you try to do everything yourself without automation. When I was doing motorsports events and putting that on, and I was the solo guy doing everything. I mean, had volunteers that would come to the events, they were event-based, but the lead up and the pre-event stuff and all of that was handled just by me. All the emails, all the phone calls, all the text messages, all the things that were happening, I was doing them all because it was a young company and I needed to make sure that we bootstrapped it as much as possible to see success. The easiest thing in the world is just spend money and go out of business. The hardest thing to do is to dig in and provide value to customers without running yourself out of business. And so I ended up actually making myself sick. Literally making myself sick. And I'll tell you why. And you have passion for this. And I can see you doing this too. You've been through some stuff, but I have not been through stuff you have, but I grew the business and it was so successful that I literally was working 22 hours a day. And I know that sounds like, everybody says they work that hard, but let me tell you, I went to the doctor and I said, I can't sleep. And he goes, why can't you sleep? I go, I don't know, but during the day I can't stay awake. And so we went through this. And this is a little bit sharing this stuff with the world is not easy to do, as you know. But stuff gets hard. But when you're passionate about your customers, you tend to put yourself second. And so working this many hours was simply because somebody would email me at midnight the day before an event because they didn't take action, they didn't do something, and I'll clarify that in a minute. And then I felt like I had to respond to them before the event the next day, right? And so what happened is I ended up working for 2 weeks on like 4 hours sleep every day, got myself sick, I went to the doctor. He's like, okay, well, you're going to be fine, but you just worked yourself. He goes, I don't know how you did it, but you worked yourself through mono. And you've been working 100 hours a week with this thing. And he goes, nobody does that. And I'm like, well, when you got 2,000 people wanting to see you, I guess you better make it happen. And I realized at that point where this is not sustainable. I either need to hire people or I need to do something else. And that's when it triggered that I can communicate effectively with email, make sure everybody has the information. Now, of course, this is common today, but it wasn't then. But this is what launches people into their passion. And so I realized that this is the power of taking entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and duplicating themselves with automation and humanization of the communication without having to add staff, without having to blow up and have a big, a big expensive company. You can do a lot by yourself with automation, but you can't just automate junk. You have to automate really good stuff. Coming from automotive and the manufacturing side, if you automate something bad, it's coming out bad every single time. If you automate good, you're automating good. So you have to be careful of the automation, right?
Right. And just to clarify, for any of you guys that don't understand what we're talking about here when we say automate,
yes.
We're talking about the process of bringing somebody into your central files, your identities, and then having them receive communication about your business, whether that's a specific thing or something else that you're trying to accomplish or a general idea of your content. That's automation. It's putting things on automatic. So you set them up one time and then you set them up on automatic. And that's the process of it, right, Dave?
Yeah, today's term on that is we call it nurture campaigns, right? Where we put somebody comes in and they're interested in, again, I'll use your reference as ManyChat. See, if somebody comes in for ManyChat, I'm going to really tell them everything about ManyChat, and that's automation. And now, can you imagine if you had to write each of those emails yourself every day to every new person that came in?
Yeah, it's intense.
It wouldn't be possible, right? You can't scale.
It wouldn't be possible.
That word scale.
Yeah.
That word scale is used a little too often because, like I said, if you don't use automation and you end up with today you have 5 customers and then tomorrow you have 100, how are you going to actually satisfy what they're asking for? Unless you're selling widgets on Amazon, where they take care of a lot of that. And trust me, when you don't do it yourself, that is automating.
Not only that, I think if you guys look at the whole picture here, right, the entire system, the ecosystem of your business, if you have a strategy, which I teach all the time, for lead generation, whether that's through ManyChat, that you can also extract emails, or whether that's through a ClickFunnels page or a website, an e-commerce channel, whatever it may be, if you have a strategy like I have seen, in which you can generate a phone number, an email, and a name for 25 cents, for 50 cents, for $1, well, that's great. But if you don't have the automation in place, then you're not going to be able to see that thing being a profitable thing an action that you're doing. So it's something that you have to build a system, just like you would, for example, write a book. You don't sell the book unless you have written the book. Traditionally, you never do, unless you are already a celebrity author and people are expecting a new book and you can pre-sell a book that doesn't exist. Generally, you have to write the book and then you can promote that book. Marketing automation and email automation is the same thing. You have to work on that and you have to create it. And once you have a strategy that you can actually scale, for example, we have, talking about one of my best clients, Dr. Eric Berg. He has something called a keto cheat sheet. Well, people are downloading this cheat sheet like crazy. All we get in exchange is an email address, a phone number, and an email. And then we're able to communicate with these people now consistently. If I don't have a system to communicate to these people, what's the next level of engagement with Dr. Berg Nutritionals? How Dr. Berg is going to give them more value and just give them more and more value in relationship to what they came for, then I'm not gonna be able to ever go to Dr. Berg and be like, hey, Dr. Berg, so we're doing this really well, we're getting 250 leads a day. I want to bump it up to 1,000 leads a day. Oh, well, Manuel, how are we going to handle that? Well, we got automation. It's happening automatically, right? It's like, it doesn't matter if I bring 1,000 or 10,000. The system is going to be able to handle whatever volume I give it. And that's the beauty of it. If you don't have those things in place, it's all broken. The same thing happens with ManyChat. With ManyChat, you have to have a bot built. If you don't have it built, it's useless to try to generate leads because you're not going to have that process. And look at what Dave said today, earlier on the interview. You got a 90-day window and that's it. 90 days. After 90 days, that lead is pretty much gone. And they don't remember you. They don't know who you are. There's so little attention span and there's so much competition out there that you're going to miss this relationship with people if you don't work on building it on the first 90 days. Now, that being said, so creating the email automation for whatever the person came to get. So if you're doing a mini course on handling taxes, if you're doing a real estate, how to purchase a new home in this environment, a resource, if you're doing a cheat sheet, a quiz, whatever it is that you're doing, you got to make sure that your automation is connected with that particular thing. Even if it's like, would you say, Dave, that if you have 4 ways with different type of content of bringing people into the journey with you, that you have to create 4 individual campaigns of email automation that goes in line with that? What would you say about that?
You said 4 ways or 4 products or services?
Let's say if it's like a keto mini course or a keto cheat sheet or a keto quiz, well, you can put them on the same automation, right?
Oh, absolutely. So you're talking about the lead magnet share. So remember, the conversion of a sale is typically the 4th step in the process. You have awareness, you have engagement, then they subscribe to you, and then you have an opportunity to convert. If you try to, if I can use some of the old the Ryan Dice stuff, if you try to jump the dating process and go right from, hello, I'm Dave, I want to marry you, that's a little bit weird, right? And that's what happens when you try to push a sale too fast. And so if you've got your lead generation where you've got ManyChat and you've got the Facebook Live stuff and you've got YouTube going, and all these are lead generations. And this is where the term funnel comes, right? You've got a wide top of the funnel and people come in from various channels, but once they're engaged, you now know what they're interested in, and they go into the automation and they subscribe to what you want, and then you can present offers to them. Now, this is outside of a little bit of what everybody thinks on Facebook. Oh, I got a big discount, early adopter, 1 year free, all these quick buzz things to be able to get people to engage. That's not the long game for the marketing, right? The long game is providing value over the long term, which is something that you do. So remember, the sale is not the first thing, even though it may be the desperate thing that you need, but it's not how you build a relationship. And whether, we're talking about relationships, not transactions. You're not buying a pack of gum as you walk out at the grocery store where there's no recourse to anything. It's like, I want to chew on some gum, I'm going to buy the gum, here it is, and I'm out the door, and that's 15 seconds. What we're talking about is somebody who's trying to build a business, which means they're thinking about it, and it's a long-term relationship. So we're not talking about transactional, we're talking about relational businesses, where I need a relationship with this person, I want to sell the product, I want to engage them in the process, I want them to subscribe to what I have, and then I want to sell them something. And so it's a little bit longer game, but you're exactly right. You have everything that has to do with keto can come from multiple channels to start. That's the wide part of the start of the customer journey. And then once they show interest in keto, now you can start sharing them all of your knowledge with the keto and the products that you sell that help them with their answer with the keto. Right. But you shouldn't divert from that until you have, until they've bought what you want or took no interest.
Right. But if you have different products that cover different problems that you're handling, then in that case, you got to focus it on that particular product that is going to handle that problem. Let's say that you have a product that helps with sleep, and then you have another product that helps with energy. You want to help them handle the sleep problem and just focus on that sleep problem. And if you're handling the energy problem, just focus on handling that problem, because I understand that you might have a brand that handles both problems, but you want to make sure that they get more of what they came for, right? Of what that particular thing was about.
This is the beauty of the automation part, because we're talking about automation. So let's say we have a campaign, they showed interest in keto, just one aspect of keto, and you've brought them into the journey, you've given them a week of information and good content, good value and they decided, hey, they haven't, we measure when people buy stuff. And so when they haven't purchased yet, now we use automation and say, okay, we know they haven't purchased yet. We know that. So let's talk about another aspect of keto. You're interested in keto, but are you having trouble sleeping? And so we can do a soft transfer based on what they were just at, show the relation between one product to the other and see if they'll take interest in it without a hard
Right.
switch. So
Right.
one email might say, hey, we talked about this. We've shared all the information with you. What we've also found is that other people are having trouble sleeping. Does this relate to you as well? So you can, you have the soft transfer of content. And then if they engage in that, now you're talking about, having trouble sleeping, and that's related to keto.
Right, right, exactly. So that's what you want to. That's what you want to do, guys. You want to focus on that particular aspect. One thing that I'll ask you, Dave. We talk about the 90-day window, right?
Yeah.
There's another window that I talk about, and I want to hear your thoughts on that. And that is a 14-day window, which means that if somebody came into your world, like you said, there's awareness and then there's engagement. So somebody is consuming the content and they're on social media, and that happens sometimes for a long time. Yesterday we had I was talking about that with my staff. We had a person enroll in one of our services, and she paid $15,000 for a service yesterday. And the first seminar that she ever did with me was 4 years ago. She hasn't given me a penny, all right? 4 years ago, she did a seminar, and then she's been consuming the content on social media, but she didn't really engage. She didn't really connect. So at some point this last week, she said, you know what, I need some help. So there's something about longevity, right? And just being able to put yourself
100%.
there consistently and just being there and giving that value. I mean, it happens all the time. Hey, yeah, I met you on Las Vegas on a seminar 2.5 years ago, and I couldn't wrap myself around like hiring your agency until now. I just kept on seeing you on social media, and then I'm like, you know what, I'm going to jump all over that. So awareness, engagement, and then these people tend to become a part of your customer journey specifically once they get out of social media. The way that I explain in my content, Dave, is that you really have a little bit shorter window than that 90-day. You got 14 days from the moment they come in to really talk about what your product and your next level of engagement is and how you can help them. So in 90 days, you kind of lose them and it's over, game over, gone, right?
Yeah,
and you
I
even
was talking
get them out.
specifically about, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And you even get them out, right, of the list, and now you re-engage them on social media somewhere else. Right. But I have a 14-day window, which I believe that if you do not provide value enough that you are able to position your products and services and have them buy something from you, the interest towards becoming your customer goes downhill from that point on. So 14 days. 100%. So what is your thought on that, Dave?
All right, so 14 days, you're spot on, and I'll explain why you're spot on. Not that you don't know, but for the people that are watching, I'll talk about why I agree with you on the 14 days. But the 90-day window was when the email servers and the email people, the gods of emails, decide that an email is probably going cold. It's not really to do with the engagement. It's really to do with some arbitrary number that, that's been industry standard that email goes cold after 90 days. So that's really specific to email, but that's kind of it's been there for a long time. So, but that's what that's about. If you've got an email on your list that you're paying for to be on your list and nobody's engaged in 90 days, you should try another way to re-engage them was my point on that. Now, the 14 days is really specific to relationships. Right. It's when, think about it, when you were, and of course for me it's been, I can't remember the last time, but if you're dating somebody and you have a new relationship, think about that short window of time where you over communicate, right? Because it's exciting and it's new and I'm into it and I'm all into it before life can take back over. So that short window of time is really about not the platforms, not the tools, not anything that goes on, but it's about the human nature. It's about the humanizing of the conversation, because when you meet somebody and I'm excited to be part of that person, you kind of, is it too early to talk to them again? What else you got? I want to keep that conversation going right now. And so you over communicate. Now think about it. After 14 days, if you're communicating 3-4 times a day, think about it on a dating perspective, and you keep getting the text messages, you're like, okay, that's enough. Let's back it up a little bit. Every other day is fine. And so that's really what you're referring to on the 14 days, which is spot on. because it's talking about a human to human relationship where it starts to get creepy. And that's an acceptable window of time to really go in and give a lot of value to somebody.
I like that. 14 days, absolutely. I kind of forgot myself how that 14-day window felt. My last relationship, my only relationship, I've had it for 18 years now. So we actually communicated a lot, right? It makes sense because you got that excitement. So that makes a lot of sense. It's a great way to explain what happens, that you have a chance to prove your company's value to a person in those 14 days and over-communicate across platforms.
And that's why when we do the automation, and with you as well, when somebody joins the tribe, if you will, and says, I want to engage and subscribe with you, then we want to indoctrinate them. That's when we want to give them all of our history and give them all of that information right up front. And that's a one-time sequence that goes out and says, hey, we're engaged with you, and I want to tell you all about me. I want to tell you what color I like. Think about relationships, right? What do you like? What music? What color? All that stuff comes out. But you really only tell it once, right? You don't tell it a bunch of times.
All cards on the table, right? You let them know who your brand is, how you actually want to help them, what your value is, what you offer, your story. All those things are at the top of the relationship.
And you do it well. You're humanizing, right? People see you and you're the brand and you're the face of the brand, and that's humanizing the brand. If I want to go buy a Coca-Cola, I don't know who it is. I'm not endorsing Coca-Cola, but just, if that's what it is, that's what I buy. It's a transaction. It's not relationship, right? And so what we're talking about with this marketing stuff for a lot of brands is that they're building a relationship with your customers, because not only do you want to be aware and engage and subscribe and then convert to a sale at some point, but you want those customers to be excited about it. You want them to ascend and buy more products. You want them to advocate for you, and you want them to promote your brand going forward. And that's a relationship.
Wow, I love that. Okay, so by the way, I've never seen it explained like that, but here's a great takeaway that I got from what Dave just said. As you're building your marketing automation in whatever platform you use, what a great analogy is that you can sit down and think about, how would you have a relationship with your husband, your wife, with your girlfriend, your boyfriend? How do you start off? How do you let them know your story, who you are, what your purpose is? How do you want to help them? How do you provide value? What other people say about you, testimonials? This is the way that you can actually start structuring this thing out in that initial, basically what you can say, an onboarding into that relationship that leads into an ability to have these people listen to whatever offers you have that you can actually let them know about. And that it's that process of building these relationships with people that are coming into your funnels. So once you actually have marketing automation in place, and yes, you can fix it, you can improve it, you can create other campaigns, you can do all these other things, you can do broadcasts when you have special announcements, and all those things are okay. Once you have those things in place, now all you got to do is figure out the things that I teach a lot, which is how to do a lead generation explosion, how to get a lot of people into your marketing automation. How do you keep on communicating with people? Now that you can now have this system is what you have in place with the automation. But other than that, you got to figure out if you use Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, if you use other channels, if you do QR codes, whatever it is that you may be utilizing to bring people into that customer journey. That's what it's all about. Okay, that's really solid, great stuff right there, Dave. I have a question for you, a couple more questions.
Sure.
It's been almost an hour now since we started, so it's been a lot of value so far.
Man.
We can go all day, right? Especially because we are passionate about what we do and what we talk about.
Okay, that's it, yep.
Here's a question, a big one, all right? I know that you are very deep into Infusionsoft, and I've seen your expert skill in that area. Now, here's my experience so far, and I want you to tell me your thoughts on this. Platforms, there's many of them. Klaviyo is really good for e-commerce platforms, e-commerce companies. We have it set up, and it's beautiful because it has all these metrics and analytics and dashboards that are very user-friendly for e-commerce. I have not experienced that with Infusionsoft. Infusionsoft, I would not change it for anything in the world for people like me, people like Damon John, people like my dad, people like Dr. Berg, people like... I would not change it, all right? Because it's kind of like more meant... Actually, Dr. Berg, we changed over to Klaviyo because a lot of e-commerce, and he's doing that right now. But there seems to be something that is there's strengths and weaknesses per platform. And I want to hear your thoughts on that because that's been my experience so far. Infusionsoft is a beautiful platform for marketers, for people that have a message, for passionate people with a lot of value and a lot of content, but maybe not the best one for e-commerce platforms. What are your thoughts for that on that subject, Dave?
Well, for sure, it's not an e-commerce platform. It's just not that. I mean, it's not going to have a catalog of parts or products you want to sell or service. It's not what it's for. It's an amazing communication platform that allows you to build an entire journey around it. Now, for those who sell services or send invoices and do all those things, sure. I mean, it does that, but it is not an e-commerce platform. It dabbled in that a little bit a while back, but it didn't. And so now it's newer version, and there's some inside stuff going on right now with that. Keep is the new brand. That's the new company. Infusionsoft is now a product of Keep, and there's Keep and Keep Pro, and then there's going to be Keep Pro Max, which is actually going to be the new name of Infusionsoft. And I kind of just let that out of the bag. I think it's being announced this week. But so Keep has evolved. If you have on Infusionsoft, so your whole interface right now is the older version of this. Keep is a brand new platform. It is very user friendly. It allows for turnkey automation. You don't need to hire folks like you or me to, I hate saying that, but it's true. The platforms become easy because there's turnkey automation. There's customer surveys, there's follow-ups, there's text messaging now included inside of Keep with your own number. I mean, so it's really evolved into a modern platform. And when you were first introduced to it, it was the leader, but it was also getting a little bit long in the tooth, if I can use a horse reference. And so they have repackaged over the last couple of years and have really come to market with a really brand new product. And yes, we do sell it, so I know the platform, so I can pitch it a little bit. But it's not going to replace your WordPress site that's e-commerce, or it's not going to replace your Shopify site that's an e-commerce. What it's going to do, it's going to take those platforms that stop and go, okay, I've got a sale, now what? Sure, they do a little bit of email, but how do you follow up with your customer? When a customer buys something on one of these platforms, you know what they've purchased. We can send that information over to a communication platform such as Keep and say, okay, great, they took interest in this product. Let's deliver some value. Let's deliver, for instance, we have a customer that that sells products, but they also wear out in a period of time. And that's designed to do that. It's not that it's bad, it's just that's what happens to it. So what we do is we buy the product on the platform, the e-commerce platform. We send that information to Keep. Keep keeps that information and says, okay, in 11 months, I'm going to send this customer a notice and says, hey, don't forget, you need to replace this item. So there's purposes for each of the platforms, and e-commerce needs to be e-commerce to do its conversion and its tracking and its sales and all that stuff, but it's not designed to be marketing, and Keep is not designed to be an e-commerce platform. Now, the problem is right now is there's so much overlap in all the platforms. There's so much overlap between invoicing and sales and products, and everybody wants to do everything. But you have to look at what their core purpose is and decide, okay, do I need more than what its core purpose is, and do I need a separate platform for that? As you know, it gets a little bit complicated, but for what we do with customers, we go in and we do a big discovery call. We talk about their needs. We find out exactly what they're trying to achieve, and then we advise on which platforms they should be using for engagement, what platforms they should be using for awareness, how they should be subscribing, what they're using to convert. So, we plan all that out for them to ensure success. So again, as far as e-commerce, I don't know that, Constant Contact and MailChimp and Keep and, all the other platforms that are out there for communication, they're not designed to be e-commerce platforms.
Right, exactly. So yeah, that's the difference that we see. Klaviyo was built for e-commerce. That's different.
Right.
They're an e-commerce email marketing platform. So if you guys are into, if you have an e-commerce brand, that's definitely what you need to look into. I and myself, my team, we're diving into it and we're learning the platform quite well. We're not going to call ourselves experts on the platform at this point, but we've seen the ability to get a lot of data e-commerce wise as to what's happening, and you can find out exactly how much revenue is generating even per campaign or at the individual broadcast level, etc. So there's a lot more data on that side. So it really does depend on what you need. I mean, I would say that if you're looking for something simple, right, Dave, like you have things like MailChimp and ActiveCampaign or there's things like that. If you're looking for a robust marketing automation platform, then nothing trumps what Infusionsoft is. I don't know if you've heard what they used to call Infusionsoft, Dave. But,
of course. Yeah, I went through it.
They used to call it Confusionsoft, all right?
Yeah, it was pretty techy in the beginning, but it's no longer techy.
It was very techy. I mean, I still have people that they get headaches trying to figure out, but that's why, it is very, very powerful. So it really depends on how serious you are in your marketing automation. I am not moving. I'm staying in Infusionsoft just because it can get really deep into this automation, campaigns, the structure, the communication, the ability to engage with people at different levels. And it is that platform that it seems like it's Infusionsoft over here, and then there's everybody else under it, just based on my own experience with the platform.
Well, remember, they were an early adopter to the game, and they were first, and so they grew, and it's hard to replace when you have a big market share in the beginning, right? But I got to give them kudos because they switched around and said, okay, we need a product that's actually for the guy who, the person, the entrepreneur, the person who wants to do a small amount of email marketing and understands the power of automation. We even integrate, physical cards that are sent out to people when they become a client. They automatically get a card sent to them. I mean, so there's a lot of things to be able to do. Mostly it's about understanding what your business needs and is your platform satisfying it. There are so many different platforms out there now that do a lot of things. It's a matter of core function for your business. What do you want to do? Are you selling widgets and products and pieces and parts, and you don't really care because it's a transaction? And remember, we're talking about relational stuff. If it's a transaction, you're doing Shopify, you're doing one of those things, and you're doing the transaction. You're sending a receipt, you're sending a thank you, maybe you're sending a survey, and then you're probably done until they find your ad again and buy something else.
Right. Okay, great. So Dave, what is the first thing? How do you get started? Let's say somebody is like, okay, I got social media down. I know how to create content. I understand marketing on Facebook, and I'm ready to build a list. I just don't know exactly what to do or how to go about it. What do you recommend somebody if they wanted to just get started doing something and building something out?
Oh, I think they need to sign up for your stuff.
But I don't teach directly email marketing.
No, I know. Yep. So when you're talking about that, I mean, you have to decide what you're selling and who your audience is, because, and I'm sure one of the things that you talk about as well is not all platforms are good. If you're selling things that you need someone to click out and link to and buy something, it's hard to do on Instagram, right? You can't do that as easy. I mean, there is ways to do that now when you have so many followers and all that, but if you don't have a lot of followers, you're limited on what you can do. If you want to sell things that work on Pinterest, that's great, because their entire purpose of their platform is to link you out to something. That's exactly what they do. So you have to understand what you want to accomplish too. If you're doing art, there's other places to do that. So it's a matter of matching what you sell to where the audience lives, and then taking that information and making sure you communicate with them. So if there's a transaction going on, there's nothing worse than buying something and hearing nothing from the person you bought from.
Right.
It's been 3 days. I bought something. I paid for it. Where's the communication? And so this is where automation starts. You said about where to start. The first thing is, when somebody buys something, make sure that you communicate instantly with them. Instantly.
I recommend that you send them a text. That you send them a text message. You send them an email. You make sure that they know, I got your order, I got your information, and I got your back. And I'm going to make sure that I over communicate to you over the next few days to ensure that you don't got any buyer's remorse and you're excited about the package coming your way. Right?
You got it, exactly.
The first
few days, what you should be doing.
The first few days are crucial, which leads me to this question, Dave. What are your thoughts now, since we have this massive explosion of messenger marketing and text messaging marketing, and how do you see that all integrating with email marketing in general?
Well, so I mean, we all, as a marketer, you want to reach the person with the message. I mean, that's our purpose, right? We want to reach somebody with a message, whether it's a sales message, a content message, or some sort of information. That's our job, is to reach people. And so we're going to use every platform available. Text messaging is coming on strong. However, there's a do not call list. So there's some stuff in there that's getting a little bit out of hand, and I'm sure that it'll be reined back in at some point, because I've been on a do not call list since 2003, if I want to date myself here, but I still get text messages from people I didn't give my phone number to, because it's still being sold and being shared. So the platforms, I mean, messengers, I mean, you're on all the messengers. It's WhatsApp, it's ManyChat, it's it's
Instagram
messaging, Instagram DM, and Facebook, Messenger. All of those platforms now we have to play on, because that's our business. Most people choose one or two platforms and be on those platforms. So wherever your customer hangs out is where you want to be. So we're back. I got off topic here. Give me your question again. Sorry.
Well, we're talking about the importance of what your thoughts on text messaging and
that's right,
and
the text
chatting.
messaging. Yeah. I think are great, and here's where I say that text messaging is most important. It's for immediate communication, not for long-term sales. So if you've got an appointment, or if you've got something that's happening now, or a webinar that's going on, anything that's important to somebody right now, because it's considered the most urgent piece of communication you have, right? Yeah, it's text message, my phone number, you're sending me a direct message. That's a close group around you that uses that. And so if you're sending big marketing pitches on text message that aren't wanted, it's going to ruin that platform as well, like you talked about before. So I'm a responsible marketer. I use the platforms where they're intended to be used. Some people say, well, you use every avenue you can to reach the customer and do that. I'm like, well, if I reach customer and I make them mad, I don't think that's a good way to go. So in text messaging, like I said, the new Keep version, with its entry-level option of pretty low cost, includes a text message with an actual different phone number for free. So you can use their text messaging platform to text message. So somebody buys something, you can send a text message. Somebody automatically, you can have that automatically done. Somebody makes an appointment, automatically text the message, all those reminders. So I look at it as a close communication reminder type platform, and not something to pitch long-term products on.
That's great. Very good. Good stuff. Yeah, the way we do it on ManyChat, for example, is the way we really do treat it as Omni-channel. So on Facebook Messenger, past 24-hour window, they go into an email, and then if we're doing a text message, the purpose of the text message is to bring them back into Facebook Messenger. So it's not as a standalone marketing platform just to blast promotions or anything like that, because you will get them to get upset. People will get angry with you, and you're going to just hurt your brand long term. The other day I noticed a brand that had one of the clients that we have here at AGM, we had a 10,000 phone number list, and something that just slipped through the cracks, and I wasn't paying attention, and we were messaging them every single day with call every single day. We had 10,000 people. 60% of those people in 3 months opted out. 60%, which is incredible. It's unheard of. I mean, you're talking about 6 out of every 10 human beings requested to not receive any more communications from us.
And it wasn't because it was bad. It was bad content. It was because it was over communicated.
Over communicated, same message, call, buy something from us, here we go. It doesn't work like that. You're going to just hurt your brand overall, all right?
Exactly.
Okay,
so
great.
The text messaging is good. It's got a place for it. And I think all of the channels have a place, and we use them all, and as you do. But we are decisive in how we use each channel, because we don't want to be the brand that is, an outcast in the industry because we're, over communicating with it. And, it's easy to have bad press these days, so we're very cognizant of trying not to.
Right, exactly. That's the way it is. So last question, Dave, and this is for the newbies out there that don't really have marketing automation process in place yet, that you don't have a list being built, and you want to build it, you have some strategies to build it. Would you say, Dave, that the first thing that they need to do is sit down and grab maybe a Google Doc and start creating that relationship with people? Like day one, what do you want to let them know once they come in? What do you want to let them know on day two? How do you, just go ahead and grab that Google Doc and write 14 days of content, and just let them know and build that relationship. just like you would with your wife or husband or whatever the case may be at the beginning. Would you say that's a starting point for somebody that has no clue how to get going?
Yeah, in fact, it's even easier than that. You know, and so even with your team, actually everybody we work with, because we don't want to get tied up in the tech. We don't want to get tied up in, I don't know how to use Google Docs, I don't know how to save it, I don't know how to do any of that stuff. So you know what we do? By hand.
Day one, day two, what happens? That's right.
Yeah, write it down. Just write it down by hand, because your hand to mind is very good. You don't have to worry about the technical aspect of what's happening on the computer. You don't have to worry about lining up the boxes if you have a little OCD going on. And I don't want to minimize that particular condition, but if you have to have everything perfect on the screen, it prevents you from moving forward with the thought. So if you just scratch it down with a pencil and a piece of paper, the flow in which you want to do it, and then as you got day one, day two there, what do I want to say? And just fill it in the box. Yep. That's
day one,
easiest,
your purpose.
Quickest way to do it. You're going to build out an entire customer journey on a single piece of paper, napkin sketch as it's been called. And you're going to have and go, okay, and you're going to say, okay, here they engaged on, if I could do this, Facebook, right? I'm going to on Facebook, and then they got an email. It goes day one, day two, day three. Plan it out. It's going to evolve because you're writing it out, and it becomes tangible. It comes out of your head onto the paper, and then you're going to see the holes that are there from your plan in your head. Because in our mind, everything is amazing.
Right.
I've got it all sorted out in my mind. I know exactly how it's going to work. Well, humans aren't that predictable. So
day one, your story. Day two, your purpose. Day three, how are you going to help them? Day four, your products. Day five, your reviews. Right. Whatever the case may be, how do you want to let them know what the true value of your organization is? And
I don't have a whiteboard in front of me. Yeah, but the time element here, I'm going to just real quick, I know I'm looking down and I'm embarrassed by that, but there's a time element in here, right? You talk about your 4th day, what are you going to get done in your 14 days, right? What's going to happen there? And then also, if you have a high ticket item, this 14 days or this timeline, which is called the sales cycle, is very long. If it's a short product, don't over communicate, ask for the sale. If it costs like 9 cents, there's no reason to send them something for 2 weeks before you ask for the sale.
There you go.
If it's a $5,000 item, maybe it'll take you a month to get that conversion, right?
Right, exactly. That's a good point. The higher the ticket item, right?
The longer it takes to close.
The longer the journey, right? Generally it takes, and the more value you have to provide along the way. Example, look at me, what I just said, Dave, that $15,000 yesterday, it's a high ticket item. The person came into my seminar 3.5 years ago or so, right? So I've been nurturing that relationship for a long time. So if you have a simple $20 product, $10 product, maybe you don't have to wait for 3 years like I did. Actually, you don't, right?
So you actually shouldn't, because it'll be too long. And people will get tired. They're like, I just wanted to buy this thing. Will you let me buy it?
Right.
If it flips the script.
Absolutely. That's fantastic, guys. So just build a roadmap. First 14 days, what do you want to communicate? Then grab a document and start writing it every single one of those days. Write it in and tell your story or answer, or do some copywriting in here. Even if you're not a copywriter, you can. If you are a copywriter, great. If you're not, then you can just go ahead and write that out, and then find a copywriter on Fiverr or on Upwork or any of these places to make it look pretty for you. And then you move into an automation platform that you want to utilize that could help you get it all in place. Some of these platforms are very simple. Some of them are more advanced. All right, if you're serious about it, you need to contact somebody like Dave and just set up with Infusionsoft because it's going to be a little bit more of an advanced, robust marketing platform. And I don't recommend it for anybody that's running their own show individually and maybe doesn't feel like an absolute rock star with technology. You might get confused, and when people get confused, people abandon things along the way. So you don't want to do that. So if you don't have, like in my case, if it wasn't Dave, you get to work with my team every day. If I didn't have these guys, I would have given up on Infusionsoft a while ago because I'm so into a lot of different things. I mean, ManyChat, for example. I like ManyChat. The simplicity of it, just dragging and dropping, and I built a lot of ManyChat flows myself. But Infusionsoft tends to be a lot more intense. I know you did talk about how they're launching this simplified platform.
It's actually out. I mean, I would recommend that people go to Keep, and Keep is Keap, keep.com. and look that up, because the newer platform, which I know you probably, I shouldn't say no, you probably haven't seen because you're so busy and diving into something that's why they're changing the brand from Infusionsoft, because it's got the negative connotations, and their new platform is actually nothing like the old platform. It's much more user friendly, much more easy for someone to get in and get something actually done in a couple of hours, as opposed to now you actually have, no matter whether it's Keep or Infusionsoft or any other platform, your needs are more in depth than that. But I want to help you understand that Keep's new platform is actually very user friendly, very easy, and it has a lot of the newer things that you would have wanted way back in the day.
Right, and it is a powerful platform. Something that I'll say myself from my experience. Somebody asked me the other day. Obviously, we are the top marketing agency with ManyChat in the world. Yep. We just won the award last month. The CEO of ManyChat got on stage on the big presentation in front of thousands of people, and AGM Marketing was given an award as the top performing marketing agency. So when I say that we're really good in the world of ManyChat and these platforms, I mean it. We are really, really deep into it.
It's a great platform.
It's a great platform. One thing I'll tell you, it is not an email marketing platform. It's not, nope. And it's really far away from it. Even though it's very easy to create an email campaign on it, not really a campaign, but an email broadcast. It's really easy. They've improved the templates, and now you can have this multi-channel, omni-channel thing that you can send out a message on Messenger, and also the same thing on email. Even though that has been dramatically simplified right now, it's far from being Keep, far from being Infusionsoft, far from Constant Contact, far from all these guys, by a long shot. So if you're looking for a real email marketing platform, I'm not going to recommend that you go to ManyChat for that, because it's really not there. There's a lot of value from a real email marketing platform. These guys, ManyChat, they're really, really late in the email marketing game. Are they going to catch up? Well, maybe. I mean, these guys, they're leader, they're geniuses. These guys are really smart. So they might catch up in the future, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do. But right now, as it stands, where we are at today in 2020, we're really far from it. So I use ManyChat email exclusively to bring people back to Messenger, not as a standalone email marketing platform, not even close. So I still need Klaviyo, Infusionsoft, ActiveCampaign. I still need these softwares, because otherwise I'm not going to be able to have a powerful system in place. So definitely recommend that you look into one of these platforms, choose one, and go through that process of building that relationship with your girlfriend, with your boyfriend on those first 14 days, and then extend from that point and just give people that value, because if you do that, email is going to be a big deal for you, and it's really far from being dead. All right.
The last thing I'll say on the email stuff, remember everybody still has a mailbox at their curb, right?
We do. We all do. Yes.
Yeah. You check it every day or every other day, right?
Every other day for me. Yeah.
Been there a long time. It's still working.
It is still working. Yes.
So email is not going away. And here's
the other day I found myself. The other day I found myself hiring a service from a postcard that I received, and I was extremely surprised. And I called them, and it was a pool cleaning service.
Rate. That thing's. That's right. And you know why? Because that open rate of that mailbox is nearly 100%.
Generally, it's 100%. Yes, it is. It's absolutely
so when you bridge the two, right? You take email. Remember, the difference between a chat service, a text message, and all that is an email sits in your inbox and waits for you to open it. The text message streams and all that are a little bit harder to keep track of over time. And so you got to remember that when you deliver something via email, it sits there, and people can sit on it and digest it a lot easier and go back to it than other types of platforms. They all have a different purpose in the marketing process. And so when you're looking at how do I send something that, if you send a book or a PDF or a form to fill out, it's harder to do that on chat than it is an attachment in an email, unless you're linking over to a website and, and doing the forms that way. So each of these platforms we talk about have very unique purposes, and they all have a place in the game. I don't think any of them are going away. What I think is going to happen is that all of them are going to meld together, and many people are going to offer all of those solutions as an omni-channel. Omni-channel is the future, Dave. That's why I think ManyChat has exploded the way they have.
because
And that's
they
why
want.
Infusionsoft added text messaging to their platform organically and gave you a free phone number.
Yeah, the ability to, in one single flow, communicate to people on platforms that are completely separate, but they're consuming them all day long. That's
Yep.
really the future, and I see that it
Perfect.
has to be it has to be the part of what you guys incorporate into your marketing. You have to communicate to people via email consistently and have its own strategy on it. Provide a lot of value. You have to text message people with like important information, valuable things that are going to bring them back into your journey. Not spam, not a lot of communication that are promoting offers and products and services and things like that. You have to build ManyChat flows on Messenger. That's incredibly interactive. I mean, the ability to deliver a whole mini course, a training, a resource, to have people engage and interact. That's quite unique, and you cannot do that on email, and you cannot do that on
Nope.
text. So these things combined, that's what really builds a business. And if you do all of them, and if you actually concentrate on doing omni-channel, you're going to become omnipresent, and that's the future of marketing for all of you guys.
You got it. And then aside, I know I've been talking about email because that's why you had me on, but we use ManyChat. We use the chat bots. We build those so that people can engage. And if you have a catalog of products, there's no reason you can't query the person and send them to, show the catalogs and then send them directly to the websites via the chats. They're super powerful, and we use them all the time. But again, our conversation today was about, the email marketing.
Right. It's all connected. It's all important. It's,
Yep.
it's part of the message and the takeaway for today. You got to do all of it. Dave,
Great.
I want to thank you so much for your time. It's been extremely valuable. I
you for
haven't
having
done this before. We haven't talked about email marketing like we talked about today. I know it's a major weakness in many businesses. So, Dave, if anybody wants to contact you, just like I did, because I needed your help desperately, I reached out to you a while ago and I said, look, Dave, I'm dying here without you. I need you to help me set this all up. So if anybody needs to contact you and needs your help getting some consulting or getting some help setting up things and overall strategies, etc., how can they reach you, Dave?
So we do have the website, which of course I hate doing this, but we're in the middle of a transition on the website. So in the next couple of weeks, there'll be a new one up. So the other one has it. So it's infusedmarketing.com, infusedmarketing.com. Or I'll give you the email directly to me personally, which is my name, D. Royce, ROYCE, at infusedmarketing.com.
That's great. We'll put it in the comments soon.
Conversation. Yep. And
yeah, so D Royce at infusedmarketing.com, or check out the website infusedmarketing.com, which he just said that it's not going to be active in a couple of weeks, huh?
Well, the website's there, but we're transitioning to a new one, which is more of a a la carte kind of thing, where you can actually choose and pick and pay for services that we offer right there on the website.
Okay, great. All right, guys. So you know how to reach Dave. D as in Dennis, Royce, ROYCE at infusedmarketing.com. If you guys have questions or want to get some help with setting up some things, I highly recommend Dave and his help and his services. That's why he's here today. All right. So
Thanks,
Dave,
Manuel.
thank you so
Thanks,
much.
everybody.
Appreciate it very much, man. And we'll keep on pushing forward with our projects, man.
Absolutely. We'll talk soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right.
All right, guys. So that was absolutely awesome. We broke that down quite intensely. I think we did probably about an hour and a half. So thank you for sticking with us here. For those of you guys on the podcast, you can probably reach out to Dave and get some help on this. We haven't talked about the subject quite a bit before. For those of you guys on YouTube, thank you for being here. We're going to repost this whole video on Facebook because Facebook failed us today. But again, thank you for being here, and I look forward to having you guys next week on the Social Marketing Hour. Stay tuned. Keep on learning. Keep on pushing forward. Keep on dominating, and we will get